Cultus is a show about cults, if you haven't already guessed that. And with that comes a bit of a warning. Some of this stuff might not be suitable for young children or people who have problems with cults. If any of this triggers you, we're sorry. We told you. Please don't talk to us on Twitter about it. Thanks, and enjoy the show. So, welcome everyone to our second podcast.
Cultus Cast.
Cultus
We're a real
Cast.
podcast.
Yeah, we're a real podcast, and we talk about cults, as you may know.
Yep, did it once, doing it again.
Doing it second time. And this one is a really interesting one.
This one was also a ridiculous bulk of information, as opposed to the last one where there just wasn't that much.
Yeah, we're gonna really assault your brain with a lot of information, and hopefully we'll be able to cover it all, or at least most of it. Basically, the long story short is some dude decided to build a commune in Oregon and then take over a small town nearby.
Yep.
So if we're going to get to the bottom of this, the whole cult itself, if you can call it sort of a cult, it was like a commune cult. It's very strange.
It's also like huge, like global.
Massive. And before we even start, I can tell you for sure, because I heard this randomly from another podcast that I listen to about cars, because Rajneesh, Oregon, as you will soon learn, was actually the largest concentration of Rolls-Royce cars in the U.S.
Yes, it was a massive collection.
So anyway, buckle up. It's going to be great. So to get to this thing, basically the cult itself was called Rajneeshpuram. Originally
and it was founded by a dude named Chandra Mohan Jain, who was born 11th December 1930.
Yeah. And he's got like a whole bunch of names. So like Asharya Rajneesh, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, also Osho, because why not?
Osho. Rajneesh was like his childhood name that he picked up, living with his grandparents.
Yeah. And so this dude, crazy cult leader, he's a god man, which is basically some charismatic guy who gets a lot of people to follow him around. And essentially it's like more infamous, I guess, than famous. But he was known as the quote sex guru.
Yeah,
so
a little bit disparagingly, frankly.
Yeah, disparaging. He was really obsessed.
Like it was meant to be
like,
this
guy. This guy's all about.
And so like the thing about godmen for India is they're like gurus, and they're super charismatic and everything, but most of these guys claim they have supernatural powers. They can do stuff like healing, see into the future, read people's minds, see auras, things like that.
I feel like godman is like, though they're taken more seriously in India, it's almost as if they've like come up with godman as a literal word for guy who runs a cult.
Well, and like the thing is, it's also like that there's an actual word for that in India, and it was something that I'm never going to be able to pronounce, so we just
stick with godman.
We're ignorant Americans, so
yeah, sorry
we butchered this entire language, and
my Midwest public education did not prepare me for pronouncing
not so much
Indian words, unfortunately. So yikes. But anyway, this dude, born in a huge family. He's
11 kids.
Oldest of 11. Some guy who sold cloth in Kuchwada, which is probably some town in India, I would guess.
I think I looked up a map when I did the research for that part, and I saw where it was, and I've retained exactly 0.0% of that information. So it is somewhere in India, and that's all I got for you.
And so his parents were Jains, which I guess would kind of dictate why he had the last name Jains. Yeah, okay.
Because I went to so Jans like take the name Jan as their last name a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of
so
like
I went to school with someone whose last name was Jan.
It kind of reminds me of people who are like Muslim and they take the last name Muhammad.
Sort of
similar,
yeah. I think
a way. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm very ignorant to this.
I don't know a whole lot about non-Western religions. So
there's so many, and they're so strange to me, at least. Maybe they're not. So essentially, his parents are this. It's kind of a weird religion. It seems like
it's a Hindu religion, which is all about enlightenment and stuff a lot.
for sure.
But this one is like traversing your stream of infinite death and rebirth by like living an ethical life and being vegetarian and stuff.
Oh yeah, so they're the I love cows.
Well, but all Hindus
Hindu.
are, but like Jains are specifically always vegetarian, I guess.
That's what
mostly.
I mean. They're like the super vegetarians.
It's sort of like how like everyone's Christian, you know, in America. It's like 75% or something. I don't know.
Something insane.
50 something. Anyway, the majority of people are like Christian. But like Catholics are like, they, you know, have sacrament and they do the whole like
for sure.
wine. We always bring up Catholics. We're not
the Methodists
Catholic.
Too, by the way, do the same sort of thing. Different
but
bread
like,
though, and they
so it's like
bread and the wine and whatever.
Like it's a specific set of beliefs under an umbrella.
Sure.
So it's like it's part of Hinduism, I guess, but it's like a specific set of beliefs about Hinduism. I don't know.
And so the weird thing about this that I thought was kind of interesting when I was looking at it is that like, so he's born to a cloth merchant, but for some reason for him specifically, he lives with his maternal grandparents till he's 7.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like any of the other siblings did. I didn't get that vibe.
That's the kind of thing that I thought was really confusing when I looked at it, because it was like, well, he lives with his grandparents, but I mean, I don't know, is his parents also gypsies? Like, are they just
like his
traveling
parents
the
were
world?
definitely just like chilling.
They're just like, fuck it, I don't know, I don't want to deal with this kid. Okay, like,
but like, I don't know. I have no idea.
Super weird.
Yeah, for 7 years of his life, he's just with his grandparents. I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, so that's what it did. He lived with his grandparents, and they basically gave 0 fucks.
Yeah, his grandma just sort of let him run free. You're just going to be the area.
A wild
no school,
child.
No rules.
Yeah, fuck it. I don't even care. And so somehow he managed to like at some point. So he does that whole thing, and like then
when he's 7, his grandpa dies. And then I guess his grandma's like, yo, without your grandpa, I can't take care of you. And so he gets shipped back with his parents. And then like a shit ton of people in his life die of typhoid between 7 and 15 years old.
Which like, I think if you have like some sort of weird predisposition to like death and things like that, living in a place like India, especially in the 30s, that is a really, really, really like, you know, I mean, you think of India now as kind of a third world country. They were really fucking third world country back then, right? Like,
well,
there is
they were
not
also like
sanitation, you know.
At this point, they're like deeply under British Crown rule, aren't they?
That would be true.
Gandhi sort of semi figures into this whole deal, and like, so I'm pretty sure they're like under British Crown rule, and so I think like the British cities aren't quite awful, but Britain is kind of letting the rest of the country be awful.
Yeah.
And like typhoid fever apparently was a really big thing in the late
typhoid
30s, early 40s in India.
Yeah, and typhoid does come from like, you know, bad sanitation.
I was going to say, isn't
everywhere,
it water?
Standing
it's
water.
Bad water.
Yes.
Okay.
So like that's kind of a thing. Between that and malaria, you're not doing well. Typhoid and malaria, both kind of third world illnesses, really, if you think about it. Like, so anyway, all of that, he's very obsessed with death, kind of drops under the radar after this point. At some point, he just decides like, okay, so I'm going to graduate high school, which is like, well,
when did he start?
Right. Yeah. Like, so there's like not a lot of detail in the middle there for some reason. He's just like, I don't know, I'm a wild child running around, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, I need to get my shit together.
Also, when does Indian high school end? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know.
Is it like a 17 thing? Is it a Harry Potter thing where you're an adult at 17? I honestly don't know.
Well, I'm like, he would have graduated high school in 1951. Right, yeah. So he graduates high school in 1951, according to...
Well, yeah. So that's like 21.
So he's 21 at this point. Yeah, like, so he decided he's a late bloomer, okay? All right.
Well, to be fair, he was 7 before he had any formal education at all.
True. So like he's not doing great. They don't have no child left behind in India.
Yeah,
right?
not 1940s India.
Like we're not pushing these kids through school, so so anyway. And then of course, like, okay, so he just goes to college.
Hit Karini College in Jabalpur.
But these people kind of all hate him because he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he's just kind of out there.
He's just kind of weird. It's basically the
and like
thing.
His professors get pissed off at him, and like he has to end up transferring.
Yeah, so he has to leave because this fucking guy is crazy. Get his ass out of here. They send him off to let's see. I guess he takes some years off to do some meditating and eventually lands at Sagar University, I guess is his next.
Yeah, I think he like went to
he was at
Jian college.
Yeah, there it is.
Got his bachelor's, took some time off for soul searching, and then ended up at Sagar University, Sagar.
Let's also keep in mind that he literally graduated college 2 years after he got there, right? Because in 1951, he graduates high school. In 1953, after taking a year off from his studies, he goes and gets his PhD.
Yeah, so he was there like
this dude
maybe 2-ish years, like just under 2 years, took almost a full year off, and then was back in college again. Honestly, college was probably different in the 40s. I'm being real with you.
Yeah, I don't know. And it might be reasonable to assume that this guy is probably like kind of an evil genius, crazy.
I think so.
I
think
really
he is
smart.
really smart. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems kind of where that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this whole situation. And so then basically after that, he just decides, I'm just going to go teach some philosophy. Why not?
Yeah. Yep. Raper Sanskrit College.
I feel like there's a lot of colleges in India is the thing.
Yeah,
but of course he's still kind of crazy and he's still kind of a dick. So the administration of that university is like, get out, you crazy bastard.
Yeah, he's a little extreme.
Because he's still talking about this. I assume he's like talking about like, man, with like death.
Well, like, I don't know, because it's like he's ultra obsessed with death, and I think that's what pushed him towards philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
But like later, we'll talk about like a little bit close, like here in a couple minutes, we'll talk about like what he's like saying, and like it's a little controversial for the time.
Well, you know.
So then he becomes a professor at Jabalpur. And at that point, he starts touring India under the name Acharya Rajneesh, which means Professor Rajneesh.
Okay, so basically just the name he goes by in school, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah. Acharya is apparently professor or teacher. That's Acharya.
Yeah. Anybody who's actually speaking Hindi can destroy us on Twitter for
yeah. Feel free to tweet bad things, and I'll just say you're right.
Yeah. You know, it's like, yes, I'm true, I suck. So yeah, basically he's just running around he's running around the country just saying that Gandhi and socialism is bad.
Basically, he says like, Gandhi is a masochist who's obsessed with poverty and doing it for attention. And he says socialism is shitty.
So and this is kind of a problem in India because like everyone kind of loves Gandhi, right? I mean, yeah, like there's some evidence now that Gandhi maybe wasn't like the best dude, like he kind of abused his wife or something. I don't know, but like he might be along the lines of Mother Teresa in that regard. Like everyone revered her, but she was kind of a dick.
Not perfect, but certainly has enough status that going around calling him a masochist obsessed with poverty in the 40s and 50s. Not going to go over super well.
You probably shouldn't be talking to shit. Like you don't really go around talking shit about somebody to their fan club. That's a really good point.
Talking shit to the person who's like sort of spearheading the let's get independence from Britain thing, if I'm calling my histories correctly.
Not a good idea.
Not going to make you especially popular.
Mm-hmm. So aside from that, he also is like this crazy dude he's literally, and this is why they call him the sex guru eventually, is because he's just like, guys, you just need to he's basically like a hippie, but too early. He like bloomed too early, right? Because
about a decade early.
He's like, guys, we need sex and drugs and rock and roll. But more accurately, capitalism, science, technology, and birth control.
Right, like not the actual drugs and rock and roll part necessarily.
No.
I mean, sort of the drugs and rock and roll because he wants that sweet technology and birth control, but like lots of sex, lots of being open about talking about sex, and like hyper capitalism. Like he's like, let's fuck this country up with capitalism, y'all.
Yeah, just bring capitalism in to fuck my shit up. That's what he wants.
Honestly, get these children into a factory, get them working, start up capitalism.
We need a mine. We need the mines.
This is quickly. The 60s. Like there's probably not child labor laws in a lot of countries at this point still. Yeah. Get it going.
So not only is he saying like what we need is all of the things that you don't believe in right now, he also calls what is basically maybe the most famous guy in India for the time. I don't know that for sure, but that stands out to me from my perspective. And then he's also like, all of your religions are terrible.
Yeah, any Orthodox Indian religion that he's like, they're all fear mongering and trying to make you like scared of everything and scared of the afterlife and hate yourself.
Yeah, so not a great idea there. But apparently a few people were like, you know what? You're right. And here's some money.
Yeah, and like the thing is, they're mostly wealthy businessmen, which I'm like, that's probably the capitalism.
And he's like, this guy is really talking my kind of line.
Like, wow, really love the dude that wants capitalism.
Also, let's take some time to notice that some wealthy people, again for the second podcast in a row, have been the wealthy people who are kind of into maybe some shady stuff. We're very much drawn to the showy, loud person.
Here's the thing. If we're going to start a cultist bingo, step 1, be fucknut crazy, but also really smart.
Yes.
2, attract rich people to pay you for being fucknut crazy.
Yeah. Be very charismatic. Yeah, do that.
So there you go. Those are 3 so far. We'll come up with a whole bingo card eventually.
There's a childhood thing here because this guy lived with his grandparents. The first person, he kind of like got a teen mom thing going on. So we don't know about that yet. But what we do know so far,
nailed down the family life aspect.
You got to be really crazy, and you got to get people to buy into that crazy.
Exactly. Yep.
So those are the 2 so far. And so he just kind of advises these rich businessmen on spirituality, and then he decides, you know what? I think I'm gonna make a cult.
He like ramps it up, but like it kind of, he's just like, man, all these businessmen are paying me to tell them what to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
May as well hold meditation camps and start recruiting people.
Yeah, might as well. So like, he's gonna basically, at this point, I think he's still sort of running around as a professor. So he bails on that and decides to spread his ritual, spiritual teaching type stuff. Yeah, so he's just getting paid. He's basically making beta. I like to call it beta cult. It's like his test lab.
Alpha cult.
This is
alpha testing the cultist. This is 64 to 68. He's sort of alpha testing the cult.
So during this time, he's like sort of taking this lecture around that says that India should be all about accepting and open of sex, which, by the way, they are just now getting there. So
yeah, they're still like not super into being like open. But that's a lot of Asian countries, actually.
You're right.
I
very socially
anecdotally have heard from someone that's like a Westerner living in South Korea. She was saying like they don't do sex jokes. Like they think you're being like, they think we're ultra promiscuous and ultra loud about sex and that we talk too much about it. Like that's what she said jokes. They're like, oh my God, you're dirty and gross. Why do you do that?
I mean, I guess it's like a thing too. It's like they're just like, they have a very socially conservative thing, and it could be traditional
in
based,
certain ways, in other ways not. So it's like it's interesting. But yeah, I would say a lot of Asian countries don't talk about sex the way Western countries do.
That's probably true.
And so I think this is like probably exceedingly shocking for them, which were like, yeah, sex, whatever. It was the 60s. But like, it was pretty scandalous.
Yeah. So like, he's doing this whole thing. And like I said, India, 40 years later, they're kind of just now coming around. So this is kind of pretty risque for the time. He also publishes this sort of lecture as a book, if you will, or as an article. I don't really know. He published.
I think it was like collected, in a
works.
collection of essays.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it would be kind of like those the articles that you can get as like scientific articles or scientific journals type stuff. I
guess, probably. Yeah, or you can like go to a print shop and buy a print of it, but it's not like on a shelf.
Sure,
that's the vibe.
In the modern era, you just go online and you subscribe to like some journals thing and you get the articles or whatever. But back then, who knows what they did? And
they send you a zip file.
They do it on microfiche. Anyway.
It was called From Sex to Super Consciousness.
Yeah. So you can see why immediately they just basically treat him like a leper. And they call him the sex guru, and he's a pariah now.
And all the Hindu leaders hate.
They just hate him.
Out of him.
They're like, this fucking guy will not shut up. He needs to get laid.
Like banging.
Like, dude, can somebody fuck this dude?
Like, dude, we get it. You like fucking.
It's a god. Like, this basement dwelling asshole needs to go back home.
So anyway, beginning in 1970. He decides to move to Mumbai, and this is beta cult. This is where he really starts solidifying the whole cult with the compound thing.
Yeah, so 1964 was alpha cult. sort of camps.
Yeah, camps, like day camps, whatever.
Mhm.
1970, he's in Mumbai. September, he initiates his first group of disciples, known as the Neo-Sannyasins.
Sannyasins. I'm going to call them the Sanyeezis.
Here, too, referred to by me as disciples. And like basically what this means is you get a really cool new name. You get to wear bright orange clothes, like ascetic Hindu men.
Yeah, buddy.
Bead necklace, like a big bead necklace. And what else do you get, Justin?
You get a locket with his picture in it.
Yep. You get to carry around a locket with a picture of Rajneesh in it, apparently.
Yeah, so the Yajneezis is what I'm now calling them.
Jeezys. The Sanyeezis.
The Rajneeshis. So yeah, so they're just like
Rajneesh
hanging
and the
out.
boys.
So they're basically kind of dressing like monks, other than like it's very strange.
Like Indian monks, yeah.
Indian monks, yeah. It's very very.
Except Indian monks generally don't have pictures with like lockets with pictures of Rajneesh in it.
So his like OG disciple, he had like this one person who's just first and foremost.
She was from Alpha Cult, and she helped him set up Beta Cult.
Yeah. So this is Lakshmi Thakrasi Kurua.
Which I think my understanding of Hindi says that's Lakshmi Thakrasi.
Yeah,
Kurua, because TH is kind of a T, and XM would be.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's a lot of letters.
We tried.
Okay. You know what? I tried.
Her dad is like hella rich, and he's a super
loaded.
important businessman. And he gives Rajneesh all the money to settle down.
Yeah, it's like, give me all that money, baby.
Give me all
so
that
yeah,
money, baby.
I mean, so that guy gives him all the things. He decides to just like go hang out in his commune and call himself Shri.
Yeah, like in December, he settles into the Woodland Apartments, and he like secludes himself. Like he starts talking to Western visitors, but generally he's not doing open public meetings anymore. Which,
I won't talk to any of y'all.
This is not the last time he'll do that, and
he
when
disappears
he becomes
occasionally.
Bhagwan Shri Rajneesh, which is called Sir Blessed One Rajneesh.
Yeah, so like this dude's just like, I'm the blessed guy. So blessed.
So blessed one.
Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Hashtag live in life. Hashtag cult life.
He's like those modern day young moms on Pinterest, basically.
Yeah.
Just like hashtag blessed.
Hashtag cultist life. Hashtag cult hacks.
Except for he hates children.
Except he really fucking hates children.
He's got this thing where he's like, everyone needs to fuck.
Can I fuck it?
No one should have children.
Can I fuck it? No, it's a child. Then fuck off.
Get out of here with that shit.
Get out of here. We can't have sex with children. We're having sex with people.
So I guess maybe he moves to Mumbai because there's a lot of people there, and maybe they're like a little bit more like progressive in a bigger city. But that was kind of cult beta. And then he's like, all right, we got this. We're good. We're rolling with this. He decides to move again.
Yeah. It's sort of cult 1 point, like, so it's beta. So it's cult 0.2.
Yeah. And this is sort of cult 0.3 now that he's moved to Pune or Pune.
It's like southeast.
Yep.
Because like he starts getting all sick and having all these allergies and stuff from Mumbai. Because like,
oh yeah, Mumbai's probably disgusting.
Yeah, like
60s.
It's even still today, like it's not great. Like even America and Britain were pretty disgusting through the 60s and 70s with pollution and stuff.
Well,
so I
like,
can't imagine it was great in Mumbai.
India had a big problem with the fact that they decided that instead of treating the sewer water, they would just kind of dump it in the Ganges River.
Yeah, not great.
So open sewers is a problem.
Not good. Yeah,
in India.
We actually learned that in the Dark Ages during the plague.
So they didn't have that, apparently. They had several more minor things that killed lots of people. And because of that, they didn't really learn that you can't just put your shit anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's kind of gross. He's having problems. He decides to move to the suburbs, as you do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sort of away from the Ganges, away from like the polluted area, more into like it's actually really pretty. Like I Googled a bunch of pictures of it. It is in, I don't think I wrote down the actual area. There I did. Koregaon Park. You can go ahead and Google that if you would like. It's Koregaon Egaon. It's actually quite pretty. It's very like trees and that sort of stuff. So this is where
very
he like,
nice.
yeah, it's actually quite nice looking. I suggest you Google it.
They got some fancy buildings and stuff in that area.
Yeah. So it's
cool
actually
stuff.
really nice. And he structures all their daily lives, and when they graduate, the disciples, they can get jobs in the ashram where they just like work there all day and stay there isolated, and like they just roll all their efforts straight back up into the cult.
So they basically kind of like working on being self-sufficient as a cult.
Yeah, it's sort of like you bring your money and you get to be made a disciple, and then you go through a bunch of his lessons, like daily lectures and stuff, which I think you keep paying him for. And then you graduate and become like slave labor for these like 6 adjoining houses that cover 6 acres in Corgown Park. And that's just it. Like it's sort of like, come in, we like pull a bunch of money from you, and then you stay here once you graduate.
Oh
and,
boy,
like,
you know what?
I said slave labor back into it.
I said the Ganges River earlier, but that's actually wrong. I said the wrong river.
What's the one that runs through Mumbai?
It is.
And where does the Ganges go? I am bad at Indian geography. That's
so it's the Ulhas River that runs through Mumbai. The Ganges is the one in Bangladesh, but Bangladesh is basically on the other side of India. So
completely opposite coast.
We failed on that. I am sorry. Public school geography has failed me. Anyway,
I know where India is. I
didn't think that was correct. I said it wrong, and I just kind of
I was like, I mean, I know the Ganges is a river in India, which is very polluted. So I was like, sure, that's the one in Mumbai.
So like eventually this dude just really, he's like got 6 adjoining houses.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like it's 6 full acres, 6 adjoining houses.
He's doing, but
and
of course,
like you mentioned the hippies, and like this is like the late 60s, early 70s.
They're doing drugs.
So like
drugs.
He's actually attracting a lot of fucking Westerners, and most of them don't actually have the money to stay there.
So they're selling drugs and whoring out for that.
Allegedly. Like that's the thing, that there were lots of rumors that they were doing that and running drugs for people and stuff like that. But I don't think the authorities really knew yet, but they were threatening.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it's just because like they got kind of tired of seeing this compound.
Yeah, I think they were fucking sick and tired of it, and they were like, we need to find something to get this asshole out of here, because this is actually a really nice area, and we don't want him here.
As much as people talk about corrupt police forces in first world countries, I think that third world countries are just unrivaled in that particular facet. So they might have just said, we don't fucking like this guy, let's just make up a story and get him out.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe, but like I definitely don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that like drugs and prostitution were a way that some of these people were funding, because like no one's ever really dropping figures or saying this, but I get this impression that he just like sort of sucks these people dry of all their money and all their will.
Yeah.
And once they're completely broke and have no will of their own, that's when they graduate and like sort of start providing slave labor for
the commune basically thing. Yeah, that kind of seems to be the case. And maybe it's hard because there's not like people seem to be there wasn't a lot of information on people who were like first-hand accounts from being in this.
Yeah, not a lot of people that came.
I feel like a lot of them like left.
I saw there were some things with like with the lady we're about to meet, Sheila, but like she's still very into it. Like there's not a whole lot of people that were like, whoa, just kidding, I should have gotten out of this.
Yeah. And so speaking of Sheila, she's like she's got her own little name because everyone gets a cool name.
Yep, everyone gets a sweet name.
Like Ma Anand Sheila.
Yeah.
So she's just but her real name is Sheila Silverman. He basically replaced his old second in command, I guess you'd say, or like top disciple.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Lakshmi. He gets rid of Lakshmi and replaces her with Sheila.
Yeah. And so then they decide, you know what, these people hate us, so we should probably move to the US.
Yeah, like she sort of was like, we should go to America.
Yeah.
And then the Indian authorities were like, yo, we fucking hate you. Stop having like a weird commune in a nice part of Pune.
And once again, he's really sick, so he would just prefer to just go
right
and hang out.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fucking problems, actually. Like, he's got slip discs and bulging discs and herniated discs, and like, it's all the sex, apparently.
Too much fucking.
And he's got like asthma and like allergies and lung problems and breathing issues. It's like he's got a lot of shit going on.
This dude did not live a positive life.
Yeah, I don't.
And as it turns out, the more enlightened you are, the more fucked you also are.
Yeah, apparently you get real fucking unhealthy.
So basically, and again, here it's just one of those things. So Sheila has a husband, and he's fucking loaded.
Yeah, rich
so
as shit.
Helps.
His name is John Shelfer.
So Rajneesh comes to the U.S. He gets some medical treatment.
He comes in on a medical visa. So like at this point, actually, like this is a weird thing I didn't really focus on, but like there is shit for Rajneesh stuff popping up everywhere. There's like communes in different places, healthcare centers, whatever.
Yeah.
So when he comes to America, he actually goes to a place in New Jersey that has a Rajneesh medical treatment center.
You know, and this is the thing that's really wild about this whole story is that, like,
the medical visa.
You know, this is like the late 70s, early 80s, and like, how did this happen? Like, there's no internet.
I don't know.
This is amazing.
Yeah, because like, I mean, we're getting into internet message board era. Like late 70s, early 80s, we have dial-in message boards.
Okay. Sure.
But like that's still not super popular. Like widespread internet use isn't until the 90s, and this takes place all before the 90s.
Yeah, and the internet is still more like a weird, like it's like group nets.
Yeah, you like dial into specific chat rooms and stuff. You don't because like the internet up until this point is like there was like local internet, then there was like landline dial into local internets.
Yeah.
And then we moved to like, that was like the basic era where everyone was running Windows Basic. Even Apple was running Windows Basic on all the original ones. And then we actually moved to like graphical UIs and then dial-up internet with the like 800 baud modems and shit.
Yeah, things like that. So
it's like mid to late 80s.
So yeah, it's really like kind of interesting to just see the dissemination of this information.
Yeah, wild. Because like I said, it's shit all over the world. Like there are Rajneesh things all over the fucking world at this point.
Yeah. So, and that's this, like I said, so he gets treated and then they decide to move to Oregon. Well, that's kind of the goal. They basically buy a ranch out there with Sheila's husband's money.
And this is not a small ranch.
It's big. It's like 64,000 acres.
Yeah.
$5.75 million in 1981 money,
which is $15.5 million today.
Yeah, so it's huge, and it was called the Big Muddy Ranch, but they changed the name, of course,
to Rancho Rajneesh.
And so they basically, so this will be important later, but it's a ranch, so it's basically purchased and zoned for agricultural use only.
Yeah, John Shelter like buys it, and it's a ranch, like Justin's saying, and
it's very important to know that. For
he
later.
Like gives it to like there's a lot of weird naming things that happen here, so he gives it to the Foundation, which is also Rajneeshpuram, which is also
him,
just him.
Yeah.
Sort of, but also Sheila, kind of.
Remember, kids, if you want to make a cult, make sure that you make everything really ambiguous.
And cover it in shell corporations.
And obscure it as much as possible, and then hide behind a foundation that is also your same name. So then it gets really, really hard for the authorities to charge you with crimes.
Exactly. That's exactly what you have to do.
That's very important. It's very important. So basically, they do this whole thing, and there's basically a small town nearby, and they hate the whole thing about this. Like, this whole thing is getting developed.
Everyone around
Why is there a city here?
Not even Antelope is the place around. We'll cover them a lot more later. But like, this is also like an area where there's like a lot of towns, but like they're far apart. Towns. It's also known as like the Dalles or the Dias, or it's like Dalles, like Dales, but spelled weird. It's like this whole area that's sort of in something county. Wasco County.
Wasco County, yeah. And there's just a bunch of small town farmers, basically. I mean, it's a very small town.
They really don't like these people because they are building the shit out of this ranch.
They're building a giant city in the middle of nowhere is essentially what's happening here.
Because, again, people all over the world are throwing money at Rajneesh to be part of this. And then when they graduate, he's still doing the slave labor thing.
People just keep coming to this stupid commune. I mean, it's just
fucking many.
We'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's huge.
And also, Rajneesh is a complete asshole. Like, anytime they talk to him, he's just a fucking asshole to him.
Yeah. He's like, you guys are... And he basically just accuses everybody of being religiously, like, biased, which will happen later as well. But basically, he's just a jerk all the time. And pretty much as soon as they land in Oregon, they begin embroiled in all of these legal battles.
While simultaneously using those slave labor people to build a fucking city in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of this happens too, like, the reason why this continued for so long is because they're in the middle of nowhere and there's just not a lot of like, you can enforce it, but there's like literally 3,500 people in the whole county.
Right.
I think,
it's not a lot.
It's very low. I mean, like the closest town to them has like 64 people.
Yeah, it's like Antelope, and like not counting the Rajneesh people, which we'll get to all that, but like it's like 40 something.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people there. And so basically they're mad, and there's this group that's called 1,000 Friends of Oregon, which is basically like an eco-conscious thing.
And they sprang up, I think, specifically to fuck with Rajneeshpuram.
Basically, yeah, and they're basically attacking them because of the agricultural zoning. They say you guys are building sewers and you're building public works and all this other stuff, and like you're not farming. You're like basically killing the environment.
And they're also saying like all of that is illegal because you voted in May of 1982 to incorporate this as a town, but it cannot be zoned for a town, so you cannot incorporate this. And the state of Oregon hates the fuck out of it too, and they're like, nah, you're not a town.
I mean, I feel like Oregon as a state is just like, do we seriously have to deal with this? Like, what the hell is this shit?
I know, like they specifically start passing laws just to fuck with Rajneeshpuram.
Yeah,
like they start passing laws and it's like, oh, we're gonna make this weird law. It just affects you.
Yeah, it actually is literally fuck this one guy.
Yep, they really fucking hate it.
So basically, like. And of course, because this is not helping the situation, like, so he's a dick for a while, but by like 1984, he has done his thing where he just disappears again and he's not talking to anyone. He just hangs out in his trailer
with his caretaker / girlfriend.
Yeah. And then just kind of like basically does a Pope thing where he just rolls by in his Rolls Royce and waves at people.
He gets this massive collection of Rolls Royces and drives around in different ones when he's not chilling by the swimming pool. And so he gives drive-by Rolls Royce ceremonies. Yeah,
so he basically just doesn't do anything other than that. Like, so he was a dick at first, first impressions are, a thing.
Yeah.
And so he's basically a dick, and then he just disappears and leaves Sheila in charge, who's a psychopath at this point. We
She's just not good. She's not great. She's just bad at people.
She just basically accuses people of being racist and bigoted against them. And that's basically it. I mean, she's just a psychopath. So he basically just talks to her, he just hangs out and talks through her.
Yeah, and won't talk to anyone else. So here's where we're at. We have all these people basically paying to be here in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, and just funneling money to this dude. And he's just collecting Rolls Royces and chilling and speaking through this unstable woman. They've made this full fucking town with like buses, sewers, and shit, and like
a police force.
They were meant to use this land for farming. It's a full ass fucking city that they voted to incorporate, and the entire like state of Oregon said fucking no.
Like, please stop.
And then like there's this day-to-day vibe of like there's like two separate kinds of people. There's people that live outside of Rajneeshpuram and people that live in it. And the vibe I'm getting is like people that are in it just slave labor, and the people that have like sort of started buying plots of lands in the surrounding towns, like work jobs, come to the ranch constantly and just funnel money back into it.
Yeah, they're basically like these like weird followers, but they're also like generating money.
It's
They're
like it's like a pyramid scheme, but not really, because they're not selling anything. They're just
Right.
funneling money directly
Mhm.
into his Rolls Royce like account.
Yeah. And so to get back to that, he does like, I don't know, it's very strange. Like he's just kind of doing his thing. He builds this whole 10 commandments list, so that's kind of fun. And yeah, he does. I mean, I don't know. We could go through the 10 commandments. They basically
Let's
kind
do
of
some
similar.
highlights here.
Yeah.
Obey only a command unless it's coming from within you as well.
So basically, if you don't think it's a great idea, don't even listen to people.
But like
Just fuck
also
'em.
he gets to tell them like their spiritual life stuff and what they should think.
Yeah,
So he gets to
that's
tell
kinda
them
weird.
what comes from within them.
It's like some hypocrisy. It's very nice.
Yeah.
He has all these weird like colloquialisms, like live wakefully and do not swim but float.
Yeah, or like to become a nothingness is a door to truth. Nothingness itself is the means, the goal, and attainment.
But this guy's got like 27 Rolls Royces, so it's very confusing.
I attained 25 Rolls Royces
Yeah.
by looking into nothingness and making you give me money.
Yeah, die each moment so you can live anew each moment. I don't know.
Just
very
honestly.
strange. Why
And then
not?
not on the list, don't fucking have kids. That would be
Oh,
number
yeah.
11. If he
Oh,
was
yeah.
going to
That-
extend
if
it
he
to
can-
11, it would be don't fucking have kids. And
Like,
also don't get
please,
married.
Don't
That's
get
number 12.
married. He's all about people getting sterilized and having abortions, which, you know, maybe, just maybe that might have been part of the reason why Backwoods Oregon was really upset about this. I don't know what Oregon was like in the 80s.
Generally, it's been historically that the larger cities in Oregon are fairly liberal and the
Mhm.
smaller towns are fairly not.
Yeah. So who knows about that? But basically, there's a bunch of these people. They're showing up. They're telling you not to have kids, and they're basically building a city.
But
in the
fuck a
middle of
lot.
nowhere. And
Fuck
they
so
a
much.
lot, like a lot. And so, pretty much, yeah.
Eventually, though, like not very many kids born because, again, sterilization, abortion, contraception.
mhm.
But they end up with 7,000 people and include like police stations, fire stations. And this is a full city. This is a cult
Yeah.
of 7,000 people in a city.
Yeah. Well, and like if you think about it, that's really, really, really crazy too, because like you said, there are no kids having. So these are all
Not
just
really,
people
not
who are
much.
fully functioning adults who just show up of their own free will, I guess.
Yeah. And pay him
some
to be
extent.
there.
Yeah, so they've got this huge city, and then like we still have this whole thing outside where like the government hates them, and they're kind of like doing this weird thing where they're like trying to they're basically convincing themselves at this point that like the government is out to get them. So they basically start doing lots of things like murdering people and committing voter fraud.
Wiretapping, arson.
They poisoned like basically the whole government of the county, basically
in
with
the
salmonella.
Dals or whatever.
I don't know
it
how they
is.
pulled that off, but it was impressive.
So we'll actually cover that. I have figured out the exact plot here. And
Okay,
we
excellent.
will get to that. So so
I couldn't find that
here's
part,
the deal.
so I'll be excited.
Antelope.
to hear it.
Yes, I found it.
Excellent.
So
I'm
the
excited
town of
about
Antelope
this.
is nearby. It's like the main town. And these people fucking hate the shit out of him. So basically
Oh,
what
yeah.
goes here is like they start to try to have like some sort of mail order service and Antelope says nah. And then they try to get a bunch of building permits and Antelope says no.
Well, because keep in mind, if you're gonna run like a mail order service, you have to have some link to the post office, which
Right.
requires you to be a city.
And
So let's just
Oregon already
sum
said
that
no
up.
city for Rajneeshpuram.
Yeah.
So
And
Antelope,
so you can't
they
get a
have to
PO
go
box
through.
in Antelope is the thing.
So like
Antelope's like, nah.
Rajneesh is like busy doing Rolls Royce drive-bys and Sheila's running everything for him.
Uh-huh.
And so the town of Antelope sees that some shit is coming down and they actually try to vote to dissolve themselves as a township.
Yeah,
and
I
get rid of
remember that
everything.
part. They're like, guys, this is like a situation where you're literally like, hey, so can we just kill like I'm literally cutting off my nose to spite my foot.
Yeah, exactly. That fails. Because the problem is that they've been having all these Rajneesh people buy houses in Antelope. Effectively like almost doubling the town size up to like
Yeah.
70 some.
That's the biggest problem here is that like you've basically allowed these people to like show up, which is fine. I mean, they're just people hanging out, right? In some regards especially in the beginning. But like all the rich people who can afford houses outside of the commune are like buying houses in the city, and now they can basically
Justin, please,
outvote
it's a
you.
town.
Well, okay, yes.
Antelope is a
City.
town.
Like,
Fucking
listen.
Rajneeshpuram is a fucking city.
Like they don't even have a gas station.
No, actually, there's more crap in Rajneeshpuram than Antelope, the actual town.
Yeah. So like basically these people are showing up and buying houses and they live in the city, so that's kind of a problem.
And then
Yeah.
they vote and outvote everyone on dissolving Antelope, and then they vote through a referendum that changes the town of Antelope officially into the town of Rajneesh, Oregon.
And you can actually look up Rajneesh, Oregon. It's got a really sweet picture that I copied and pasted in our notes.
Welcome
it's
to
like
Rajneesh.
literally welcome to the city of Rajneesh.
So
And,
for
like, the
4
city
years,
itself
they
looks-
controlled Rajneesh, Oregon.
What's really funny about this picture is that like they paved the street. It looks great.
Yeah, looks great. It's
It doesn't
freshly
look that
paved.
good now.
So like, yeah, that's a thing they did. They literally took over a town from people.
They also have an awesome plaque with like a deer on it for dedicating to the community that
Well, we'll
basically
get to that.
resisted the invasion.
Yeah, we'll get to
awesome.
the actual like statement at it at the
Yeah, let's
very
do
end.
that. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
So like basically Oregon's like, no, fuck you, you're violating separation of church and state. You're just like literally a manifestation of a religious cult. And
Like,
Rajneesh
they
is like,
basically
nah, y'all
do
are
that. They're
racist.
like, you guys are a cult. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Like, so they're like, you guys are terrible.
And then like another fucking Rajneesh thing, Rajneesh Hotel in Portland gets bombed by an Islamic extremist group.
Which is kind of weird because it's like, okay, so there's all this tension with Oregon and the state of Oregon and all that, but for some reason, that's like an unrelated thing that seems to just happen.
Yeah, but
And
it
then,
triggers
like,
a reaction.
Yeah, it does.
Because they make Peace Force. And what is Peace Force, Justin?
They're basically just like a SWAT team or a military. Like they have their own semi-automatic weapons. They patrol the streets.
And this is like a paramilitary force in addition to the Rajneeshpuram / Rajneesh, Oregon police and fire department, which
so
also
they're just, like,
exists.
Yeah. So this is some sort of crazy, like basically a private army.
Yeah.
Um,
And like all of this growth and all of this crazy stuff really starts pissing off fundamentalist Christians.
yeah. They were like, I think they're like jealous.
They're like, how the fuck did they do it?
like, how dare you?
We've
I
been
have
trying to
worked
make cults
for
happen
years.
forever.
This just didn't work. You guys are dicks. I am so pissed. So they're, and honestly, there's nothing worse than a bunch of fundamentalist Christians with their jimmies rustled.
Oh, yeah. They said
they've
it's
been-
akin to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Which, I mean, if you think about it,
I
fucking a
mean,
lot.
they're fucking a lot. And a cancer in our midst.
Yeah.
And like nobody likes them. Everybody fucking hates
So
this
yeah,
place.
so the locals love them.
In fact, a bunch of gun clubs call it open season on Rajneeshi. But like, I mean, frankly,
Yeah.
they also have Peace Force. So like, they're probably fine.
Right. So like the gun club, I mean, gun clubs notoriously are kind of, they got this like sort of weird like militia connotation underneath, and they just might have a reason to actually want a militia at this point because Rajneesh is being very scary.
Exactly. Well, also there's a culture in the Pacific Northwest of a lot of white dudes with guns trying to make paramilitary separatist organizations.
Yeah. So
that's a thing. Noticed like what 2 years ago when they took over that ranger station.
Well, you think about it actually, like during this time too, like the Cold War is kind of kicking up.
Oh yeah,
think,
it's the
like, if
80s.
I'm
This is
thinking
high
about
gear.
that. So like
This is high gear.
oh, we got a lot of
like
other tensions going on. There's just
84.
so much. People just really want to kill
The
shit
Commodore
right now.
64 is on the market right now, bro.
Yeah, buddy. So basically,
Here's where they do the plot.
things are getting real good.
This is
now.
it. This is where they fuck up 700 people in the Dells. The Dells. It's where like the majority of the voting population of Wasco County is. So basically, what happens is they decide that what they're going to have to do is win a bunch of these elections, which include the sheriff's position and a couple places on the circuit court for
Mhm.
Wasco County.
Yeah.
So they try a couple things. Here's my favorite one. It's the homeless people
Oh yes, they just bus in homeless people to
from
vote.
everywhere, like a lot of
Yeah.
them. County clerk fucks them over though.
Yeah, because like, well, I mean, okay, so you're homeless, so you can't just like bring people in to register for vote.
Yeah,
because
so
they don't have their
basically,
like ID.
they had this county ordinance that they could enforce but hadn't, where you have to have like a shit ton of paperwork to register to vote. And like generally homeless people aren't walking around with a plethora of paperwork.
So now then they have to like ship out all of the homeless people.
Well, Oregon does. Rajneesh is just like, fuck it, let them go.
Just leave them here.
They're in Oregon now, not our problem. Get out of Rajneesh.
So basically the state of Oregon, it has to give all these homeless people rides back to where they live.
So they fuck over Oregon with that, and they all have to do that. And they kind of give up on that because they're like, well, not going to be able to get them to vote. So they like kind of boycott the election and say, like, this all sort of happens at the same time. So they're trying to do the homeless people thing, and it's not going well.
Yeah.
So they decide what they have to do is make everyone super sick so they can't go vote.
Yeah.
That if they make everyone sick enough, nobody will show up to vote, and only Rajneeshis will vote.
Which, like, holy shit, right? Like, that is insane.
That's some cult logic right there.
So they get salmonella from a lab somehow.
Yeah, they buy it from some lab in Portland, like, or
you got
in
enough
Seattle.
Money. So there's someone desperate enough somewhere.
Man, all you have to do is sell one of your 20,000 Rolls Royces, and you can buy some salmonella.
You are
they
set.
like bought some tiny little thing and said it was for like their medical research, because they have like hospitals and shit, dude.
Yeah, like they're full blown, they're full
this
blown.
is an international organization that has medical research areas. It's
insane.
A thing.
I kind of wish that there were more pictures of the actual like compound.
Yeah, I didn't find very many, but I'm sure y'all could find something. But
I gotta look for it.
So they get some salmonella, and like in their fucking medical lab, they like reproduce massive amounts of it. So 2 county commissioners show up to try to like talk to them and drink some water there, and oh boy, do they get sick with salmonella.
Oh yeah, everybody gets
so
sick.
Violently ill. And so part 2 of this plot is they go to a bunch of grocery stores, and they dump it on produce. Luckily, lots of people wash their produce. So that didn't work out well. And then like doorknobs and urinals at the county court. But again, people wash their hands. If you if you leave a bathroom and don't wash your hands, you're fucking sick.
Oh yeah. So, okay. I just did a quick, like, look, this whole place is like still kind of there.
Sort of.
There's lots of concrete pads.
Well,
and
it's like
it's
a Christian boys school now.
Yeah.
It's like a Christian youth school. Yeah. Like it's like a Christian youth camp school thing.
So yeah, anyway, that's what happened. So yeah, man, it's just like
they're not just poisoning enough people. Like it's not working because people wash their hands and wash their produce.
Yeah. It's like you only infected 750 people. You're really not getting quite county levels of awesome.
And like, so now they're like, we're going to fuck up some salad bars. And you want to know what's funny? They didn't really, most of the places didn't say what restaurants these salad bars were at. But I found an article that I got some of this information from. And do you want to know what the headline was?
No, what was it?
The largest bioterror attack in U.S. history starts at a Del Taco.
Oh, mother!
Del Taco salad bar, motherfuckers.
The sad part about this is, it's like
you probably would have gotten it anyway. You probably would have just gotten the salmonella from a Del Taco
honestly,
salad
it was
bar.
already in there. The concentration wasn't high enough for your immune system to fight it off.
They just nudged it up.
And we just pushed it over the boundary. It was already pretty terrible. You didn't need to actually try that hard. We actually were surprised at how little we needed to put in.
Yeah, we just we barely uncorked it. I don't know. I didn't even infect that one. I don't know how people got infected from that
There's
one.
a 4th restaurant that was damn, they didn't even come here.
But you know that some other restaurant probably had some outbreak at the same time, and they're like, fuck it, just say they were here.
Yeah. It's fine.
So they're carrying around these little tubes of brown liquid, and they
just
go to a salad bar and squirt it all over the stuff and dump it in salad dressing. Gross. Never want to eat a salad bar ever again.
Pretty gross. And so, I mean, basically, salmonella is just kind of pretty standard. So you get the typical symptoms of food poisoning, diarrhea, fever, chill, nausea, vomiting, all that jazz.
Bloody stool.
And no one died, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, 751 people infected, 45 in the hospital. All of them lived.
Yeah, so good. I guess good on them there.
Even an infant. I guess
they're just letting
They
that
said,
kid graze
like,
on the salad bar.
I
don't
guess
even
some
know.
woman ate at a salad bar while she was pregnant and was super infected with it still,
Oh,
and
so
then
the kid
gave
was
birth
born with
and gave it to
salmonella.
salmonella. Yeah,
Excellent. That's pretty
that was
exciting.
my understanding from what I read. But it lived.
pretty cool.
The baby lived, so we're good, everyone. Nobody panic. The baby didn't die.
So basically, as we've learned from previous, our first episode, if you attack a waspy kind of place, bad things happen.
Which these people aren't waspy.
I guess they're not. They're
not rich because
yeah,
wasps are generally rich.
Yeah, that's true.
They are white though.
Oh yeah,
they are infecting white people with stuff. So like CDC and FDA swarms the fuck out of this place because it's a massive like 700 people getting one illness is a lot.
Yeah, so then
the
we
CDC
basically
doesn't like that.
No, not really. And so basically at this point, they decide like, well, it's probably them.
Yeah,
so
which like duh, it was.
So they rush to the compound, and then basically what they're doing is they basically have like, they're doing like a comical burn all of the things you can.
Yeah.
And deny everything.
Yeah, like Rajneesh comes out of whatever. And like, so like the investigation takes a while because they got to do some stuff. So, and like, you don't get salmonella immediately. Like if you've had food poisoning, it's usually like a couple hours later. So like this is over a while.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that salmonella is like a threshold disease.
Yeah.
So like you have to be infected with a certain threshold of the bacteria to survive your gut and actually get into your system. So it takes a while.
Yeah. So basically what happens is Sheila, like it starts attracting attention. And Sheila and her management team just fuck out. They go to Europe.
They're the bug out bag, man. They just bail.
And Rajneesh takes back over.
Yep.
And he's like, I was never a religious teacher. And they burn like I think they said over 5,000 copies of his books.
Yeah. So he basically doesn't want to go to jail at this point. So he's just trying to like.
Well, and so like what happens is, I didn't really write it down here, but a summary is like, the U.S. government gets him, and they're like, yeah, so you came into this country on a medical thing?
Like, why are you still here?
Like, you came in on a medical, like, visa, and, like, you're still here. It's been, like, 8 years. 5, 6 years, something like that.
What the F, man?
And you never went to a doctor that wasn't yours. Like, you always went to a Rajneesh thing. So this is obviously immigration fraud. And then they get Europe to extradite Sheila.
Rajneesh basically just bugs out to India.
Well, like, so what happens is, like, she comes back. He gets a plea deal.
Yeah.
She says he did it. He says, no, she did it. And, like, he got the plea deal first. So I guess she takes the fall for it.
Well, and I mean, keep in mind that, like, he basically said nothing, like, during the whole, like, time he's at the commune. Right. He was basically kind of a dick and then disappeared. And then all she did was go on basically live TV and accuse journalists of being racist.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look good for her. There's like a lot of
yeah, and like there's some recordings and stuff where like they had a conversation and she says that he like told her to do it, but like the recording is more like it's
I wish there was something we could do about it kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more really of like I need you to take care of them. But like so it's implied, but it's not explicit.
It's how the mob works, basically. So
he gets to fuck off back to Pune, India, and she gets stuck with everything. I couldn't find what she got because like really she didn't kill anyone.
She just kind of disappeared. So I don't know if she just kind of
on a lot of radar.
People. Yeah,
but they didn't actually just kill anyone. Radar.
Yeah. I didn't really find much on her either. Yeah. I tried to look a little bit. I'm guessing if anybody knows.
Yeah, if you know any information about Sheila, let us know.
Tweet at us, CultistCast. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. He goes home and does cult things and then dies.
Yeah, he goes back to Beta Cult and dies in 1990. So he didn't get to experience Britney Spears that much. So,
and then that's the real tragedy of this whole story, I think.
But do you want to read what his stupid ass pretentious fucking epitaph is?
I'm looking at it and I just can't wait. His Osho, never born, never died, only visited this planet Earth between, and then the dates, which is December 11th, 1931 and January 19th, 1990.
God.
So it's just like the most pretentious Oh god, he just like maybe really all he was doing when he just went silent was just looking at a mirror and ripping his hog. Like
just cranking that hog so fucking hard.
I am just so good. I love myself. Look at myself. I am amazing. So yeah. And the town of Antelope just kind of went back.
Yeah, they I guess they referendumed their town back.
Yeah. And then the whole like cult place just kind of fallen into disrepair for the most part.
Yeah, it turned back over to property of the state. It's been a couple things. It's sat empty for a long time. It's been a couple different like whatevers. Then it was like the state gifted it for use to like a Christian organization. And they've made it a couple things. They made it a horse camp for a while.
Horse camp.
That is a horse camp. Horse camp, not a whores camp.
Horse camp. I mean, Christian probably have something like that.
Welcome to horse camp, the place for unwed mothers. I don't. Damn. I've said it, and now I'm on the internet, and I'm going to get hate. I don't have anything against unwed. I was doing a Christian thing, and they don't like unwed. You know what I'm with the. Yeah,
we know, we get it. I mean, I actually, it's like in the first episode when I said that the gays were destroying Florida, which what I really meant was destroying the housing market in Florida. And, who knows what I'm going to get for that.
It's supposed to be a fun time. Don't kill us for it.
Yeah, pretty much that.
So yeah, they made a really cool plaque though and put it in front of the post office.
Yeah. So they got a plaque and it's all like, basically, I don't know. It says dedicated to those of this community who throughout the Rajneesh invasion and occupation of 1981 through 1985 remained resisted and remembered. So basically like, thanks for sticking around. Because
thanks, you didn't die, but
ran away.
It sucked for 4 years.
Yeah, and bloody stool was definitely one of the side effects if you stayed. And then, of course, the standard quote from Edmund Burke, which was the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, which is pretty accurate for today, I think. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean,
yeah,
it's
that
just
kind of
this
wraps
guy.
it up. I mean, we could have made like 12 episodes about this guy.
Dude, there was so much.
This was him. Like edited heavily. And we're still at like over an hour at this point.
Yeah.
We were kind of busting through it.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys stayed around. This one was a lot of information to get through. I'm actually kind of impressed we managed to squeeze it into a little over an hour.
Yeah. And like this was mostly just like the contentious part of the existence of the cult. Like again, like we said, there are organizations in multiple countries across all of America. I think there are still some stuff around now. Even
a little
though
bit
he's
somewhere.
dead.
I think they've done some rebranding. I think I remember seeing something about it. They're not nearly the 7,000 people in the middle of Oregon taking over a commune, but they certainly had a lot of influence.
They had a whole lot of like medical stuff, research stuff. It's hard because some of their stuff sort of coincides with some other cults that were made by Indian gurus.
Yes.
This is not the only Indian guru cult.
Yeah, and there are so many on the list of cults that we have.
Yeah, so there's a few. There's a this is not a unique thing, but this is the only one that tried to carry out a bioterror attack in the U.S. It's actually, I believe, still it was the first attempted in the U.S. and I think it's still the largest. Because anthrax happened after this, but it wasn't as big.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, like because of the sheer amount of people.
Anthrax was the 90s.
The anthrax thing
90s,
happened.
early
Yeah,
2000s?
the anthrax thing happened. Would have been nearish September 11th.
It was before.
Yeah, it was nearish, but
I think it was before, but near. Yeah, so like late.
There was some
90s.
anthrax stuff that happened after that as well, but like the main one. Yeah, so this was the largest like bioterror
the first,
attack
and I
in
think
the
still
US.
largest. Yeah.
So, I mean, that pretty much concludes that.
Yeah,
it's wacky.
That's
it's super
Rajneesh.
crazy. Like I said, if you think that like, wow, that's a lot of people and that's insane. And there was like all these, like, yeah, dude, there were a lot of weird places all over the US. And like, he managed to get this following in basically what I can assume is like 30 to 40 years of doing like speaking and talking and
his public speaking stuff in the 60s.
Yeah, and by the 80s, it's full blown crazy.
It's 20 years of him existing as a cult leader, and like he
some of which he wasn't talking.
Like he
be
got
honest.
a lot. Yeah, most of the time he was just doing drive-by Rolls Royce things.
And I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if you tell people that, all they need is just lots of sex and it'll be all right, I guess you get some people behind you pretty quick.
It's really interesting. You brought up the Cold War, and I'm thinking, like, there are not as many cults. Like, when we talk about cults now, as they exist in, like, 2018, they are more hyper conservative, hyper orthodox religions.
It seems like that for the most part, yes.
This sort of like community cult with a singular leader thing.
I feel like these people just were missing the internet.
Like the 80s and 90s was when this, like, the bulk of them, like a massive amount of them were.
Yeah, I think they're just missing the internet, right? Because I think we just have internet cults now.
Probably.
Like, we just have people who follow things online. I told you about one.
I fucking told you about one that I watched happen on social media. Fucking nuts. I'm not going to bring it up because he'll probably sue me. Because he likes to sue people and he's still very much active. The fall has not happened. So he still very much has a cult. So rather than get sued, I'm not naming names. But what I am saying is I watched a social media cult form in front of my eyes over the past 7 years.
We may cover it eventually. If
he gets put in prison, like he should be. We may cover that shit. That'll be fun.
So stay tuned for that.
Body count's already at 2, y'all.
Excellent.
Just saying enough that people might know who it is, not saying enough to get sued is what I'm saying.
So basically, that I think that wraps it up for us. We've talked at you long enough.
I wonder, you brought up the Cold War, and yes. I wonder if that sort of bubbling tension between, like, mutually assured annihilation and stuff, I wonder if that sort of forced people to these cult leaders.
I mean, it may very well have.
If that's why, because, like, the big cults, like 7,000 people were at this compound, and there were even more outside the compound.
Yeah.
You just don't see that, really.
And they talked this particular one is, a lot about either that or they're just better at hiding. I don't know maybe. I mean, it's hard to say, but yeah. And I mean, this particular one is kind of all about, like, reincarnation and stuff, as you would with many of the Hindu religions, or Hindu religions rather. So I don't know, maybe. It's very interesting that we talk about that, though, because I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's pretty much it. I think we've pretty much covered this whole thing as near as we can. If you have anything to add or anything,
I guess we didn't really cover beliefs super strictly like we did. Like, we sort of covered it more in depth the last time, but I think this is because, at least as far as, like, in America, we sort of have this perception of what following a guru is. Sort of lots of, like, above and beyond yourself, and, like, think about your next lives.
Yes.
So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of Rajneesh.
He didn't really
deviate. The third eye, and you can see into the endless.
He didn't really deviate from that part much.
Yeah, not so much. Like, that's pretty. Which was interesting.
Other than everyone needs to have sex and give me money.
Yeah. Lots of sex and give me money. That's Yeah.
So, and no children.
Yeah,
that's
no
the
kids.
One.
None at all. Hate them.
So there was that. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I can't think of anything else from this one. So thanks for sticking around. If you have stuck around for this whole thing. If you have any further things to add, we are cultistcast@gmail.com or @cultistcast on Twitter. And
be nice, because I watch the Twitter. So
so don't be rude.
Don't be rude, or I just will ignore you and cry.
Yeah, and we don't really need that. We don't need tears. Yeah. So
like Ariana
that's about
Grande said, no tears left to cry.
Yeah, exactly. So we're pretty much out for that. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks' time.